Hello and welcome to today's Accurascale announcement video. My name's Richard Watson and I'm Accurascale's digital manager, and today is probably going to be the biggest announcement the industry's seen since before I can remember. Accurascale emerged 8 years ago, not through choice, but through necessity, joining an industry yearning for change, for competition. Since the 2021 launch of our first 00 gauge powered locomotive, the Accurascale range has seen a relentless expansion, setting a new pace in the industry. So today we shatter the boundaries of what's become known as possible once more, because today we're not just launching one new locomotive, we're launching hundreds. So without any further teasing, I am proud to announce that Accurascale has acquired one of the most respected brands in the hobby, Hellion. So with this news, some of the very best 00 gauge models, including some that haven't been announced yet, join the Accurascale range, while others, such as the mighty O gauge range and the all-new TT120 gauge, will be sold direct at highly competitive prices on an all-new website, hellion.com. There's a lot to take in with this announcement, so I'm going to nip outside and find someone else to tell us a bit more. So here we are. I am joined by Steve Nichols, who's Programme Director, and Ben Jones, who's now a Project Manager, part of the family, the wider family of Accurascale, and we're joined by lots of models. But first of all, I know what we're all thinking. Why Hellion? Steve?
We've always respected Hellion's approach and everything they brought to the UK market, but also the international market too. Many of us were consumers when Hellion first launched their Class 47 25 years ago. We enjoyed buying them, and at the time it was amazing, having a European spec loco with a decent drive and lighting and DCC ready and colours and all that kind of thing. Is available for the UK market, and it led to the HiMech, which I ended up building a whole layout around, and there's been so many good products after that. And their vision and their drive, we've always inspired us as a company. Obviously, in Hellion joining the Accurascale family, they bring many things. They bring the tooling, they bring their experience, they bring their background, their knowledge, but also means new markets for us. This signifies a move, not just the expansion of our 00 and our O scale, but it's the start of TT, Continental HO, Gauge 1, 009, narrow gauge. There's so much that we can learn, and we can share our experience, their experience, and bring ourselves together to build something even better and more exciting than what's gone before.
And I suppose it's important to say now that this acquisition wasn't because Hellion was in a dire state at all. It was just the stars aligned.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from. I think it comes from a positive place, and it's going to be a huge positive for both parties moving forward. We're a relatively small company, but prolific, and there's a lot of things that we want to do to evolve the product, to keep up with modern standards and expectations, customer expectations. Um, but because we're relatively small and it's a competitive market, and you've got the retail base is getting smaller, and there's a lot of discounting and stuff like that. It was getting more challenging for us to do the positive things that we wanted to do. So that's where this comes in, and it's a positive move for us and for the products and for the customers long term.
And I suppose it continues, working to your strengths because we can handle some of those issues.
Absolutely. I mean, Accurascale itself is only a decade old. We're relatively new guys to the block, and we've had to figure this out. But we've done so by following people like Hellion. A long time before this, ourselves and the Hellion team, we've been good friends. We've gone out for dinners and stuff like that, and celebrated together. So formalising our businesses into this position is great, and it signifies the start of something really exciting, really dynamic, and we can play to both of our strengths and our experiences to develop something that's not just new for the customer, but new for us. There's all these facets that we want to look into, and we've got a real drive to make it brilliant. We truly view this not as the death of Hellion. We're not going to hide the brand or make it disappear, but this is the renaissance of Hellion. This is the real fresh start that we've all been looking for.
And talking of exciting, we are surrounded by small excitements here on these two tables because I don't know what is the main headline today. Because is it the fact that Accurascale have the Helgen brand, or is it the fact that Accurascale is now doing TT, or we've got the market-leading O-gauge range joining the family? But the stock is now going to be handled in 3 camps, or placed into 3 camps. Now, you'll have to tell us a bit more.
Absolutely. So it's not just the stock, but also the projects, the work in progress, both those public and those that aren't public too, and also the long-term future for Hellion as a brand and Accurascale as a brand. Broadly speaking, the products that we're acquiring in this process can be divided into 3 categories. Firstly, the Helgen brand will continue. We will offer good value items, good pricing, good structure, good assembly, a few tweaks here and there to make them something special, but the brand will continue. There are then those that will be promoted into the Accurascale brand, where we'll rework the tooling, maybe sometimes start from the CAD to develop them, bring them up to the Accurascale specification, the pricing you're used to. And finally, some will be retired. And whilst we have stock of them now on our new website, they may not be seen again.
So the range is actually quite large, actually. Ben, some of the highlights.
So yes, over the years we've been, I would say, we've been incredibly prolific for a small firm. You've got 70 or 80 different bits of tooling just in 4mm, and then getting towards that number in O-gauge as well. The ranges have built up over the last 25 years into a really big portfolio. Some of my favourites over the years, I mean, going back to the time before I joined the company, the Class 128 parcels unit has always been a favourite of mine. It's a fantastic runner. It's just got real character about it. And another one that's always been popular, the Class 33s. People will obviously remember our High-Mech from a long time ago, which is still around now, which is a really strong runner and a great looking model that still holds its own these days. And then more recently, we've got the Class 104, again, one of my particular favourites. It was a really enjoyable project to work on, and has turned out a fantastic model. And then you've got the to come this year, you've got the LNER U1 Garrett, which is a real monster, but as it will be I think a fantastic addition to people's layouts just because it's got such presence to it. Other models that have, obviously over the years we had a real reputation for picking up the more unusual classes that have been produced. So prototypes and failed classes. So we've got DP2 there. We've got the Class 16. We've done 15s and 16s and things like that. So it's a real broad range of everything that's been available, that's run on Britain's railways over the last 70 or 80 years. And then in the O-gauge stuff, it's a similar sort of thing, although there's less of the kind of left field stuff. It's a lot more bread and butter, classes, 31s, 37s, 47s, peaks and things like that. But there's a really nice, again, a broad selection of classic and cult classes. I think in all gauge, probably my favourites, the little Yorkshire Engine Company 02, which has always been one of my favourite things. And then more recently, the Class 153, which has had a tremendous reception, and it's one of those models that you can build a layout around. So yeah, there's a real broad range of stuff for people to get their teeth into.
I think the thing as well to remember is we're in an industry and hobby where it's so fast paced, there's so much innovation, so many changes that many of the Hellion models from 10, 15 years ago are still very good models. Things like the LT Electric, it's superb. It's just there's things that have moved on around it that we can now bring up to the current day with some small changes.
And I think a lot of people at home, particularly watching now, will be excited about hearing that we can now combined bring TT, a range of TT to market.
Yeah, I think TT is going to be a really big up and coming thing over the next couple of years. Our Class 122 bubble cars they'll be our first TT model, and they'll be out pretty soon. Already tremendously popular on they've had a really good reception from the TT community, and it's a product that you can build a layout around. So you can have a branch line terminus, or you can run it into a main line, in a main line setting. It's so versatile. And then with the Deltics, which will come after the bubble cars, it sort of complements a lot of what's already available in TT from other suppliers. And it's, Deltics are perennially popular with collectors and with modelers, so we think they'll be tremendous. And there's so much more we'd like to do in TT because there's a huge amount of potential in it.
The exciting thing now is that we can start to look to scale down some of the Accurascale items into TT. We have this shared CAD bank to do exactly this kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's obviously gaps in the market, things that we'd really like to do in TT, like at the moment, something like a small mixed traffic diesel, a 25 or a 26 or something like that, would be a perfect thing to drop into the range. And then there's so much rolling stock, obviously from the Accurascale range and from our own tooling bank in 4mm and in 7mm, that will help that market sector to grow.
This news also means expansion outside of the UK. Suddenly we now have a Danish range of models, we have Swedish models, we have German models and things like that. And the common interest that we have at the Accurascale team have been at railways all over the world. And now we have this opportunity to use some of that mojo to do the Accurascale way in a European context, which would be exciting. And even some more off-piste things. We have a Gauge 1 know-how to do something with, for example. But at the same time, why not use that as an opportunity to learn about Gauge 1 and maybe look at our models in Gauge 1? Do something really creative there.
So quite frankly, this is extremely exciting. And it's not just about the models, because Accurascale has been known to be devilishly competitive, particularly around price point. Now, I presume we're going to be following suit.
Absolutely. A few headlines just to give some examples and a feel for what's coming up. Like we have the beautiful 7mm Ruston 48DS, which would be $99.99. The 7mm Peak starting at $249.99, and then the 00 scale Class 47 starting at £99.99p.
That just sounds incredible. I mean, some of these locos were £600, £700, £750. How are we able to literally take them a third the price?
So I think we need to take a little bit of a step back first and look at the industry as a whole and where we are as a hobby and things like that. Firstly, I think it's a very exciting time to be a railway modeller. The range, the selection of items you have, and the volume of it. Every day there's something new arriving and things like that. And when you see the reviews in a month in a magazine, there's all these new models are being announced or being delivered, and it's great. I think this is truly a golden period for the hobby and the industry. One of the realities, though, and whilst it's great for the consumer in the short term, is the sales cycle that we have noticed with certain brands and things like that, where a product is announced, it goes through the development process, it ends up with retail, only to be discounted. And we're at a point now where discounts of 40, 50, 60% are not uncommon. And it's great for a consumer, getting that much off your model is fantastic. But then it teaches you to wait. You think, I'm not going to buy this now, I'll wait a couple of months and I'll get it at half price. The reality, as a manufacturer, is this is unsustainable. We can't continue like that. removing 50% of the sales price is removing margin for people, and we simply can't work. To break this cycle, we need to try something different, and therefore today we launch Helion.com. This will be the future sole source for all Helion branded items, where we will be selling direct only.
And that does mean that if you've already pre-ordered any forthcoming Helion items from retailers, that you'll need to replace a new order via Helion.com. But the flip side of that is that you'll get it at a better price.
All of us at Helion and Accurascale are thrilled to be working together on this exciting new adventure, with new paths to market, new models, and new excitement.
Not to mention a new price point.
Absolutely.
Right, well, there's been a lot of information given to you today on this video. You might need some time to digest, but don't worry, because if you click the link down below in the description, we have a full blog going over everything and hopefully answering all of your questions. But should you have a question, do feel free to leave it down below in the comments, and I know I for one look forward to reading them. But for now, I'll say thank you very much, Ben, thank you, Steve, and we'll see you very soon in the next one.